Alright, so when we last left off, we made a start screen and pause screen and all that, and that's great, that's working good. But one of the things that happens when we are playing this game, and you may have noticed this as well, is that it's sadly quiet, right? It's in a vacuum. It needs sound. So I'm just going to show you basically how to just add music and then also add just sound effects. And that's what we're going to cover in this video. Alright, so first thing you're going to need to do is find some sound. I'm going to go ahead and make a create a new folder, and we'll just call it audio. And our sounds will go in here. Now, there are a bunch of different sites you can go to. I'm just going to show you, there's this one that I go to. It's incompetech.com. And basically, it's a guy, and you can see he's got a royalty-free music section, and you can click on that. And then the nice thing is that he has ways of, like, you can search for it. He has them in categories and things, so you might be able to find something here. There's another one. There's also like sound effect. You can go online. You can find lots of sound effect sites that they just have like open sound effects, and you'll find them. You can also purchase them. There's all sorts of different places for it. Another one I saw was game art, open game art. That was it. opengameart.org. And basically it has a bunch of just artwork that's out here. You can browse 2D art, but they also have music and sound effects. And sound effects. And basically you go to sound effects, and like I'm going to be doing a jump sound, so you can search for jump. And enter or search. And then it'll give you, right? And there's a bunch of different sounds. That does not much of a sound. Oh, there's a second one too. So basically, you just you can test them. Let's stop that, and you can click on it. Most of them are actually like a collection of them. See, and then you just download the zip file here. Okay, and that's basically what I did. So I got sound effects here, and I went to Incompetech, and I got my music there. Okay, so. Now I'm just going to go ahead and put them in here. So I downloaded them, I put them in a folder, and then we're just going to go like this. Okay. And so I have this Blippy Trace one, so it's an MP3. You'll find that Unity is actually pretty good at accepting any number of different file types. So I'm going to drop and drag that in there. There you go. There's the audio. And I was doing this one for an enemy being dead, and I was doing this one for jump. We're only going to do just two. You would apply the same basic principles to all of it. I just want you to see it. So basically, you make an audio folder, put your audio in there, and voila. All right, good. So now we have the audio, and that's great. So what we need to do is we're going to need some sort of system to basically play the audio. Okay, so it's a two-part system. One is you need a listener, and you need an emitter. Okay, so we already have a listener, and that's on the camera. The camera comes with one. See how it says audio listener? And so it's not going to be as obvious when we're playing a 2D game, because 2D games are flat, and so usually the audio is kind of the same size or the same volume and that sort of thing. But if we were playing a first-person shooter, we could have like a character that makes noises, and if we were, obviously we'd be looking through the camera, as we would get closer to like an enemy or something, that noise would change. And we can even set it up to be very 3D, so it'll sound more on the right side or more on the left side, that kind of thing, you know, like basically stereo. But ours already has this built into it, but if it didn't, you just add component and just type in audio listener, and voila, okay? If you have multiple cameras and stuff, they might have multiple audio listeners, and you might want to remove them or what have you. But our main camera already has it, so we're good on that. We don't really have to do anything with that, which is good. So what we do need is basically something to play the audio. So to do that is kind of hard, because basically what it is this. If you go to audio, come on, whoop, you'll see that there is the audio source, and that's the thing that basically plays the sound. But we can't have multiple. You might be able to have multiple on one object, but it's not a clean way of working. So what we're going to do is we are basically going to make a group. So just like when I did some of the environment stuff, or like I put things in like an empty group, that's what we're going to do here. So I'm going to go ahead and go to create empty, and we're just going to name it audio controller. Okay, so this is going to be This is going to be our audio controller. It's actually not going to do anything. I'm just going to zero it out because I like things being zeroed out. It's literally not going to do anything. The only thing it's going to do is just hold other objects that are going to hold the audio. So now I'm going to create another empty, and I'll just call this jump. Okay? And I'm going to take jump, and I'm going to drag it underneath this. So basically it's parented to jump. I'm going to create another empty, and I'll call this one enemy dead. Alright, that'll be one. And I'm going to create another empty, and we'll call this one soundtrack. Okay? And I'll take enemy dead and soundtrack, drag them underneath this, and I'm going to zero out their transforms. Okay, so I got each one of these objects. They aren't really doing anything. One of these still had, there it is, this one. Zero this puppy out. There we go. Okay, they don't really have anything yet, so I'm just going to basically add that audio source onto them. So I'm just going to grab all three, and hopefully this works. Add component, audio, and audio source. Boom, now we have an audio source, and you can see each one of these have them. Okay, let's start with soundtrack, because that'll be the most obvious one to work with. So I have the soundtrack. You'll see it says audio clip. What do you think is going to be in there? That's right. So I'm going to click and drag my audio onto that. And now when I hit play, right, so it's on there, so that's great. And it's automatically going to play because that's play on awake, and we can basically adjust some of these things. Remember I was saying before about being stereo or not? This is the 3D thing. We'll just leave it as 2D because it's just going to be sound overall. The only thing you might really kind of want is maybe to take the audio down a whole bunch because, you know, if you usually want the sound effects to be a little bit louder, but I would just take the volume down depending on what you're... I think that's a little bit better. Maybe a little bit higher. Let's do 0.25. Okay, so it's a quarter volume. Great. Okay, so that's it. That's all we got to do for the thing. Oh, also there's loop. Let's put loop on so it just keeps playing. So loop we also want it on. All right, good. So that means it'll when it reaches the end, it'll just start over again, and voila. So that one's fine. Now we need to do. I'm just going to set up jump for now. Go to jump, click and drag jump onto this, and voila. And if I hit play, it's going to automatically play it, and then that's it, which doesn't really work. I want it to play at a specific time. Basically, I want it to play when we hit the jump button. Should be pretty easy. So to do that, I'm going to turn off play on awake. I don't want it to play by default. I want it to play when I tell it to. So I'm just going to go ahead and in my scripts, going to go to the player controller script, and we're going to go ahead and add that to this. Okay, so we are going to go down here. I'm going to go after these. We're going to close this out. No, thank you. And I'm just going to go ahead and add a private game object. That's the type. And we're just going to call it the audio controller. Okay, so basically I'm going to make something that's going to hold this guy here. Okay, so it just makes it a little bit easier to work with. So audio controller, and then we're going to go ahead and find it right off the bat here. So it's going to be audio controller, and we're going to say game object dot find, and I want to find a game object with the name audio controller. All right, pretty straightforward. Again, because that's what we named it here. We named it audio controller. So basically, it's going to store that into this, and that way I can access it later on in the code. And there we go. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, it's actually pretty easy. We're going to go ahead and where it says, if these things are true, go ahead and do the jumping. That's what we're going to do. So with this jump lerp, I'm going to do it actually just before it, just on the off chance it doesn't work. We're going to go ahead and just have it work. So it's pretty straightforward. We're going to say audio controller, all right, which is this guy. Now what I want though is yeah, we get it, guy. Okay, what I want is I don't want the audio controller. What I want is the jump that's under, so it's child. It's kind of weird. So you would think that you would do like get a child or something, but it's basically not how it works. It's actually attached to the transform. So you're going to do audio controller dot transform dot find. So basically, that's how we're going to find in its children. And I want to find the thing called jump. Okay? Like that. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to find jump. But that's actually now, that's great. I can find jump. There it is right there. But I actually need to do something, right? So inside of that, we're going to do the game object. I want the game object of it, because this is actually going to give us the transform of jump. I want to use the game object of that. And in the game object, it's kind of a long piece of code. We're going to go ahead and do get component, because the idea here is I'm after this audio source of this. Now, in order to find a child object, I have to use the transform of this, right? So that's what we did, transform. And then I did find, and it finds this, but it finds this transform. So that's why I had to transform to find the child, which I did here, but then I have to go back up and be like, the game object is actually what I want. Then I'm going to find the component in that, and the component I want is the audio source. Okay, that's fine. And then on that, I want to tell it to play, right? Okay, and then we'll save it. So this is what we're writing here, and we'll save it, and go back here, and we'll see if it works, because I might need to add another thing to it, but I think it will work. Alright, let's see. Okay, I wasn't sure if I needed to add there's another thing. There you go. Woohoo! So now we added basically that. Alright, cool. So we have a sound trick, and we have that. Now, you can go a million ways with it. What I would suggest, basically, or at least the way that I'm setting it up, is I'm just going to put each of my sounds. I'm going to make an empty, and I'll put each one of the sounds on there, and actually enemy dead, make sure that's not on play awake too. Put each one of my sounds on there. And so if you had other sounds, like play this other sound when they do another thing, all you're going to do is literally what we just set up. You will leave this here like it is, this audio controller. We find it here. And then every time that you want to run the audio, you'll just write this bit of code, right? But you'll change based on the name of the object that actually is holding the audio source that you want to play, okay? And I would just name it after whatever it is that you want it to be, you know what I mean? So like jump, obviously, because I want it to be the jump sound. I probably should have wrote jump sound or something, but that's basically it. So you would just apply that to whatever you think would make sense, and then that would work. Okay. So now you might have to do this part here. If this is going to go on another script, you would have to add these two pieces here as well. You'd have to add basically this part and this part, and then you can go ahead from here. Okay. But that's how you would basically make the audio play at a specific time, or in a simple way. I'm sure there's cleaner ways of doing it, but this is only 3 lines of code. I feel like that's relatively simple. All right, so that should cover audio, at least to start with. And there's actually one other thing we have to do with this. I forgot. So it's not in here, but in here we need to take this audio controller and make it a prefab, because what will happen is when we go into the other scenes, it's going to look for the audio to play, and it won't be there. So you're going to take this, drop it in there, your audio recorder. Now, if you want to add more sounds and things like that, you're going to have to open the prefab and then, add more sounds that way after the fact, after you make it a prefab. That's how you would do it. So you grab it here, go open, and then you can insert more things here and whatever you want to do. Okay, and you just hit the back arrow. Okay, so now it's a prefab. That's good. I'm just going to save this. So just Control S or Command S. And I'm just going to go to what level am I on right now? So it's level 1. I'm going to go to level 2. And so I'm in level 2, and I'm just going to go to my prefabs, because watch, if I hit play, it's going to see it's going to probably crash, because it's going to look, or it's going to pause and be like, I can't find something, right? So you can see how it's not really, that's weird. Yeah, there you go. As soon as I hit spacebar to jump, it's like, I can't find it. It's looking for the audio clip, okay? So that needs to be in here as well. So all you're going to do is just take the audio controller, make sure you drop it in there, and now if I hit play on this one, there you go. You can hear the sound, and this is working as well. Okay, so just make sure that you prefab it, and then you have to bring this into every scene as well. Okay, And that way that's all set up and you're good to